All right, Jane, let's jump into it. I've long maintained that when we talk about big tents, that the Democratic Party actually has a much larger tent than the Republicans. Republicans, you're either right, far right, or fascist. But then when you talk about Democrats, you have conservative Democrats, you've got moderate Democrats, you've got progressive, you've got far left, and Democrats have always had a difficulty on bringing this coalition together because it's so varied interest. Yet your thesis is that progressives are going to take over the country. How?
Yeah, so mainly by younger voters, honestly, and it's not that difficult. The only thing we got to make sure doesn't happen is that Trump doesn't win in 2024, because that could just end democracy. But as long as we have democracy, in 2016 and 2020, Bernie Sanders was winning younger voters in massive margins, and I explained that in the book, by 40 points, 50 points. And so younger voters, though, kept getting older and older because that's normal. That's what happens. So by 2020, he was winning under 45-year-olds. And now when you look at the polling, under 50-year-olds are now massively progressive. We just need one candidate to spark a fire, and we're going to easily take over this country. Because, Roland, progressive ideas are intensely popular. Almost all of our policies are favored by 2/3 of all Americans, let alone the huge margins we have with young voters.
But isn't that part of the problem? Is this notion of a candidate striking the nerve? I look at Texas. I'm born and raised in Texas. I'm still a registered voter there. We had Beto O'Rourke, who was running for governor. 75% of voters under the age of 30 didn't even vote. This guy went to every county. He was out there. He was going to college campuses. He was talking about the issues. We're seeing what they're doing in Texas when it comes to abortion, when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to education, whatever. Yet young voters didn't show up. So I get your argument about the numbers with Gen X and millennials, but they got to show up.
Yeah, but Roland, two things about that. Number one, you don't have to worry about under 30-year-old voters anymore, because like I said, younger voters aren't that young anymore. That generation has grown up and they have remained as progressive as they started. So now we're talking about millennials and Gen Z. And so we're talking about two generations. So under 50, the minute we reach about 55, which is the next election, that's the majority of the voters in the Democratic primaries. We win the Democratic primary and we win the general election easily.
But the second thing is, Jane, 55 plus votes, though. I mean, when I look at the numbers, among African Americans, 65 and older, they're like, man, you ain't need to call me. I'm going. 55, 64, they're voting. The problem is when you drop 54 and below, that numbers keeps going down. Yeah. And the reality is, it's not always going to be a candidate that excites me. Shouldn't issues be exciting people?
So, Roland, there's so many things to say about that. Number one, you're right. The issues are the things that matter the most. But the problem is that our system depends on media coverage. So I'll give you a perfect example. Paid family leave is at 84%. It's not like you have to convince any more people in a democracy that should pass easily. That's moms getting 12 weeks off after they have a baby. Literally every other developed nation does that. We're the only ones that don't. And almost every nation on earth does it. Estonia gives moms 82 weeks off, but Americans say we get 0 days off. It's unbelievable. It's unconscionable, right? So we've already won on that issue, as we've won on almost every issue. But the problem is the media will then take that, and when Joe Manchin kills it and Joe Biden ignores it, they'll say, oh, they're the moderates. Well, that's not the moderate position. That's a 16% radical extremist position. So why do you need a candidate to galvanize these folks? Well, that's because the candidate is what draws the media attention. And the problems with like Democrats and why I entered the presidential race is because everybody whispers. Everybody whispers. Stop whispering. Donald Trump screams from the rooftops, and whether we hate it or not, it works. Meanwhile, Joe Biden goes, and then doesn't propose paid family leave as a standalone bill, doesn't propose any of these bills that are 70% and higher, never fights Republicans. We need someone who's a fire breather, who's going to fight for Democratic voters and the American people. The minute you have that and that person gets media attention is the minute we win everything easily.
But how? Okay, so then explain to me then, how does a Beto O'Rourke lose to Ted Cruz by 2.5 points? Comes back, same Beto, same fire breather, same passion, same hard campaigner, same big fundraiser, loses to Greg Abbott by 11 points.
Yeah. No. So first of all, Beto, not a fire breather. Look.
Well, come on, Jay. I mean, my goodness, how much? It's not like Beto was a passive dude compared to other Democratic candidates.
Yeah, I know, but Roland, we're talking about a different level here. So let me explain what I mean. So when you say paid family leave, for example, that sounds boring, and then people are like, "Hey, what is that?" And if you go, "Hey, I'm in favor of it," you're not going to get the 84% animated. You might get them to go, "Oh yeah, that makes sense, and I like that." But then that's if they hear it, but most likely they will not hear it. Here's how you say it to get people's attention. Why do Republicans hate moms? They claim to be pro-life, but they hate babies and moms. Now, everybody in the press, if you're as large as Beto O'Rourke was, would cover that story. And they say, "Oh, that's an outrage. How can you say that Republicans hate moms?" Well, they won't even give them 12 weeks off. They won't give them a day off after they deliver a baby. It is true that they hate moms on behalf of corporations who are all paying them through campaign donations. But Democrats never say that. They never even go to the number one issue that they could use against Republicans: corruption. And the reason they don't go to that is because they also take corporate cash. So if you have a clean, progressive candidate, and this is the giant if, though, Roland, which is that the press pays attention to and is willing to hear out, and then the country will hear these. But you can't just whisper it. And Beto is not enough of a fire breather. He hired the same campaign manager as Joe Biden. When his campaign was over, she went to Joe Biden. These are super moderate consultants that advise all of their Democratic candidates, "Shh, don't be impolite. Are you nuts? Donald Trump already won the election. He's almost certainly going to win this next one. And he's the most impolite guy in America. So wake up, Democrats."
So the candidates you're describing, who are they? Like, for instance, right now, name me 3 candidates that have won statewide that fit your description of being this fire breather. If a Beto wasn't in that category, who?
So there's only one that comes close, and that is because several generations of Democrats have been taught and trained to be obedient, to be civil, do not cause any good trouble, do not cause any trouble at all, lay down and let the Republicans run over you. On a state level, to give you the very specific question that you asked, the answer is John Fetterman. And he beat the hell out of Dr. Oz when he couldn't even speak, when he had a stroke and everybody saw he couldn't speak. Why did he beat the hell out of Oz? Because he was impolite, because he made fun of the brother 24/7. He crushed him. He was merciless. And if he hadn't had that stroke, he'd probably be the next president. Here's a candidate at the presidential level. Me. Okay, so now I got an incredibly hard road. Everybody knows that. I'm not a natural born citizen. I'm born Muslim. I'm a talk show host, not a politician. And so I got 1,000 obstacles to get over. But you know what? I'm all over the press and I'm screaming from the rooftops things that everyone agrees with. And whatever show I go on, Roland, it's not just left wing. Even when I go on right wing shows where they're like, "Yeah, well, higher wages would be good. Lower drug prices would be good." Wouldn't it be amazing if there was actually a fighter against corruption and on behalf of all these issues? You take my attitude, you put it on someone that the press considers quote unquote credible, and that person wins easily. Go fight. Republicans fight like crazy. That's why everybody's going to show up for Donald Trump and nobody's going to show up for Joe Biden, because that guy doesn't fight for anybody.
Okay, so you say you said one example statewide is a Fetterman. So you say one example statewide is a Fetterman, who right now is getting blasted for his position regarding Israel. But you also talk about someone like yourself. Yet when you ran for Congress, you only got 5% of the vote. You came in fourth. So if you could not make that work in a congressional race, getting 5% of the vote coming in fourth, how do you think that works nationally?
Yeah. So first of all, so you're not wrong to bring that up. I totally get it. I got 6.6%, and that number sucks. Okay. And so you say, okay, why come this didn't work? Okay, so at a local, and then how dare you on a presidential level? Let me explain both sides of it. So number one, at the local level, it's harder than the presidential race. And I know because I just did both. I'm in the middle of doing one, I did the other one. And so why is Congress harder? Because mainstream media comes in, smears the living hell out of you. For me, they call me anti-Muslim when I'm Muslim. I mean, they just lied about every single thing about my past. And if I saw the articles in the LA Times and New York Times and I never knew anything else about me, I would have voted against me. I wouldn't have voted for an anti-Muslim, racist, sexist, etc. guy. But that's not at all who I am. So they just smear you, and then they never give the mic back, Roland. Like, there was no press, no interviews, no nothing. I asked the LA Times, are you guys ever going to write an article about the policy issues in this race? And they literally said, no, we're only going to do the fake scandals against you. They didn't say fake, obviously. And that's it. That's it. All we're going to do is smear you. Now, at the presidential level, it's actually a little bit easier to get the mic. And so when you come in at 6.6% on a congressional race, you're going to come in at 0% on the presidential level, right? I mean, at the presidential level, we got Governor of Arkansas and Governor of North Dakota coming in at 0 and 1%. We got Chris Christie at 2%. So there's no chance that I'm going to get a number at the presidential level, right? Wrong. Quinnipiac poll, 2%. I'm higher than 3 governors. Why? Because, first of all, Young Turks is a nationwide, worldwide show. So whatever I get in a congressional district, I can get at the national level. But second of all, Roland, it's because I'm actually now in a lot of the media. I've been doing a lot of black radio. I've been doing a lot of online shows. I've been doing every kind of show there is. Did Breakfast Club yesterday. Here I am with you, Roland, today. And once people hear this message, they're like, oh, someone who's not just going to sit there, someone who we don't have to beg to do things. As soon as Joe Biden wins or any Democrat wins, and what does everybody do? We all have to beg them to do the things that they promised. We have to push them. Why? We already elected you. Why don't you just do it already? Imagine having a Democrat who's going to get in there and he can't wait to pass bills, because who wins is irrelevant. Who cares if it's Cenk Uygur or Joe Biden or Marianne Williamson? That's just status and title. The only thing that matters is passing bills, because when you pass bills, you change lives. Higher minimum wage, lower drug prices. But we haven't had a Democrat fight like that in 40, 50 years. So the only issue is getting enough media rolling.
Okay, but all right, I get that point. But the reality is you can get a lot of media, but it's not like that still means you get votes. Howard Dean got lots of media. Hell, Vivek on the Republican side is getting lots of media. Granted, voting hasn't started yet, but if you look at polling, it's not like he's killing it.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to media attention is one thing. As you said, Senator Sanders got lots of media. I will bring up Beto again. Senator Elizabeth Warren got lots of media when she ran 2020. I think her biggest mistake, she should have actually run in 2016. I think that was the biggest mistake. But the bottom line, so I get that. But being a fire breather does not necessarily mean people are going to vote for you. And when you can only name one person statewide in the country, you need 270 elected. You got to win more states to win.
Right,
in the states that you got to win, you're going to be in places that are not necessarily, fully progressive. I mean that's just a fact.
Yeah. So Roland, let me address a lot of things you say. First of all, you're totally right that Elizabeth Warren should have run in 2016, and she would have won. And so, but that goes actually to the main point, which is you say, hey, only one fire breather has won at the state level. The guy I mentioned, Fetterman, right? But Roland, how many fire breathers have there been? Almost none. Because all the Democrats are told to obey. I mean, we got Joe Biden, who's definitely going to lose this election. He's sitting at 37% approval, 59% disapproval. And what do all the Democrats do? They obey. They say, well, okay, I don't mind losing Donald Trump. I don't mind losing democracy as long as we obey the dear leader. And we never raise our voice and we never create trouble. We never do anything that's impolite. There's no fire breathers in the Democratic Party. It's me, and it used to be Fetterman, and now he's been neutered in the Senate as well. In terms of the guys that you mentioned, these are good examples. Vivek Ramaswamy, he did get a lot of media attention, but he's not rising in the polls. Why? Because his ideas are super unpopular, whereas our ideas are incredibly popular. So when you look at, for example, lowering drug prices, that's at 90%. Ending gerrymandering, 90%. Federal background checks, 97%.
Where
Family leave, 84%.
Okay,
You got to have the fire breather plus media plus really popular policies, and that is all progressives. And in terms of Bernie, the number one reason he lost in 2016 and 2020, Roland, is because he chose not to fight back. He barely laid a glove on Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. We told him, will you, for God's sake, attack? And he wouldn't do it. He's just too nice. If you never make the case against the other guy, you're not going to win. JankForAmerica.com.
But here's the deal, though. But you say justice is coming, how progressives are going to take over the country, and America is going to love it. There's got to be some proof of that. And again, it has to be more than one person. Okay, so fine. Let's go outside of statewide. Okay, who are the folks who are on the local level that's going to go to the next level? Because again, when you talk about a presidential race, okay, those are frankly state by state campaigns. They're not necessarily national races. They're state by state. You have to look at the politics in that particular state, whether we're talking about Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, we're talking Minnesota, we're talking Texas, Florida, we're talking, these different places. All right. So that's really what they are. But you also have got to have a bench. And so I need, where is it? Where's the bench? And if you're going to say take over the country, you got to take over more than one seat. And so where are the multiple candidates? And then the next piece is, okay, if it's coming, where are they being trained? Where are they being raised up?
Yeah. So let me address that too. So I remember when we started Just Democrats, people thought it was impossible. And they said, you're not going to win anywhere. If you win, you get lucky one place. That's it. Right. And I asked every reporter I could find. Every one of them said you'll either get 0 or 1 candidates in. Well, what happened next? You want to talk about fire breathers? Well, AOC beat Joe Crowley, the 4th most powerful Democrat in the House. In fact, if she hadn't beat him, he had a Keaton Jeffries role. He would probably be Speaker of the House right now. And that was a historic upset when nobody thought it was possible. Why? Because she aggressively told the story of progressive priorities, and people loved it. Who else did we run? We ran Jamal Bowman. He beat Elliot Engel, who's the head of the Foreign Relations Committee. A committee chairman also thought impossible, but it wasn't impossible. You just had to try. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, we now, Summer Lee, Greg Casar, we now have 11 Justice Democrats in Congress when everybody thought it was impossible. No, all you got to do is fire breather plus popular policies.
All right,
plus media.
That's 11. But here's the question. The folks that you name, can they win statewide races? And if they can, show me. Because you mentioned Fetterman, but here's the deal. When I looked at Fetterman, it wasn't just, he was just speaking the truth. He didn't care what he wore. Fetterman also was appealing to those white conservative Democrats in other areas of Pennsylvania. And then he was also appealing to folks in inner cities. But again, that's one. Show me where you translate the 11 you spoke of to higher office that goes beyond a congressional district of 700,000. You've had progressive mayors who, when they ran statewide, couldn't do it. And so again, that's just what I'm looking at. I'm looking at right now the attacks on progressive district attorneys. I'm looking at the attacks on progressive mayors. But I'm also saying, and I get that local level, but we're talking about presidential or U.S. Senate or governor. We're not talking about statewide offices.
Yeah. So here's 2 things about that. Number one, whenever there is a fire breather, what does the press do? They just go set on a seek and destroy mission, right? Oh, not civil. In fact, when I ran for Congress, the LA Times did an op-ed, and I had a great meeting with their editorial board. And you could tell because in the op-ed, they said in their endorsement, while we agree with Cenk on money and politics and almost all the other issues, we think he's too uncivil. He's too pugnacious.
But how many young voters read the LA Times editorial?
No. I know that's the problem. Is yes, there's tons of older voters, and older voters watch MSNBC. Older voters read the New York Times, listen to NPR, and they are told comply, comply, comply. You must pick a super weak Democrat who's definitely not going to deliver for you. A corporate guy who takes tons of campaign contributions and is super corrupt. And they believe that nonsense. They've got to stop believing that nonsense. Turn off mainstream media and actually get a fighter who's going to fight for you. JakeForAmerica.com.
But look, here's the problem, Cenk. If you have more Gen Z and millennial voters today than you do baby boomers and Gen X, it ain't happening.
But it is by 2028, Roland. We're going to have the majority. You're almost giving up before we're about to get to victory.
No. I'm not.
We're about to get to victory.
I'm not giving up.
Do not snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
I'm not giving up. Here's what I'm doing. I'm doing the math. I'm looking at Abeto. I'm looking at what happened in Louisiana. I'm looking at places where, yes, you are seeing young voters show up. They showed up in 2020, in 2022, what happened in Virginia, some of the places. But I'm talking about where they are. And the issue that the concern that I have, the big concern that I have is that a lot of young voters have completely and totally checked out. They make the argument, I'm tired of these older people running everything. And I'm like, guess what? If the older voters are the ones voting, you're not, the older people are going to be running things. It becomes sort of a catch-22. And so what you're laying out, when are the people who you're talking about? When you say progressives are going to take over the country, when are they going to show up in mass and do it? You can't wait to 2028 when you got super majorities of Republicans in states now in Louisiana, in Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Tennessee, and different places like that. You can't wait when you're talking about gubernatorial races, when you're talking about U.S. Senate races. And so I get this notion of a fire breather, but there has to be results and not just talk. And that's what I'm not seeing.
But Roland, first of all, you just said it. The evidence was in 2020 and 2022. There's no way in the world Joe Biden wins unless the younger voters showed up in large numbers, and they did.
But did those younger voters, though, if I keep hearing Joe ain't the guy, he too old. Okay, where in the hell were they in the primary then?
In what primary, Joe?
There were other choices. Roland. There were other choices than Biden in the primary, correct?
You mean in 2020?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's why Bernie won the first 3 states. Then all of mainstream media and all of the establishment Democrats said, no, Bernie's going to kill people in Central Park. He's a communist. Chris Matthews said that on MSNBC. These lunatics, Chuck Todd started calling his supporters brown shirts and Nazis, even though Bernie's Jewish. And they all piled on together, and they barely beat him. They barely beat him twice. And Bernie wouldn't fight back. So you find someone like Bernie who's willing to fight back, and and the demographics are on his side. By 2028, we're going to kill him in the primaries.
Hold on. So you're saying again. So you're saying that you say Bernie didn't fight back. He would disagree. Disagree with that. And look.
No, he wouldn't. I don't even think Bernie would disagree with that. He knows that his staff gave him notes to attack Biden in a debate in October, and he refused to do them. He loves Biden too much. Oh, my friend. Your friend has sunk the country and is handing it over to Donald Trump. And Roland, you tell me what the alternative is. This Joe Biden guy is definitely going to lose. And we're going to have Trump as president because everyone obeyed the Mad King, this egomaniac, Joe Biden. 77% of the country doesn't even think he can survive a second term. He's 81 years old, can't finish a sentence. And we're just going to agree to lose by running this candidate? I've never seen anyone so selfish in my life. So give me anybody but Joe Biden.
Here's the deal. But again, though, the book is not about Joe Biden. The book is about how progressives are going to take over the country. And what I am trying to understand is how and where. If what you're laying out, again, that's why I specifically asked how many people that fits your description to do this. You mentioned one person. Cenk, that ain't.
No, I mentioned 12
that
people.
Ain't a movement. That's one person, just one. And so what I'm saying is, if what you're describing is the pathway to victory, there would be more than one.
Okay, let me give you an example, Roland, from the other side. And I hate to do this, but it's reality.
I need it from the Democratic.
Hold on. Let me explain. So Donald Trump, back in 2015, when he announced, did you know that he started at 1%?
Yes, I'm
saying he's at 1%. And at that point, if you were talking to him, you would have said, give me one example of a mad populist fire breather who can galvanize the country against corruption, etc. He couldn't have given you any examples.
I don't think it was just that. I don't think it was just that. I'm telling you right now. I think first and foremost, if you look at look at Trump, first of all, let's thank Jeff Zucker and NBC and The Apprentice.
Yeah.
So America has this nonsensical idea that rich people or supposed rich people can do anything if they're the smartest people in the world. I think Elon Musk is proving that right now when it comes to Twitter that he is not a genius. And so folks love to fall for that. And what you had here was you had someone in Donald Trump where there are no guardrails, there's no bottom, there's no sense of decorum. The moment Donald Trump attacked Senator John McCain as a POW and the Republicans did not make him pay for it, I was like, there you go right there. And I think what Donald Trump did was he understood and he pushed the racist, sexist, misogynist buttons of the Republicans in the primary folks, and they were always there. They simply were buttoned up, if you will, because there was proper decorum. And so when that was unleashed, the bottom line is the people he was running against, they were playing by old rules. The guy had no bottom. And so that's Donald Trump. Now, if you show me who else has replicated that model, you can't. One of the reasons why
because nobody on the Democratic side ever does, Roland.
No, it's not. No, but it's not even just on the Democratic side. It's even on the Republican side. Even on the Republican side.
Yeah.
So they thought, oh, with the second impeachment, again, McConnell, I'm not going to vote for it because he's just going to go away. And they realized he's not going to go away because he is appealing to the white nationalist instincts of Republican voters. That's why I wrote my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds. And so I get that. But again, what I'm trying to understand is the type of candidate that you are describing on the left that we're going to see in not just candidate, but multiple candidates. I'm saying I don't see the evidence that you have what you described, those individuals running, they're not winning statewide and national races because winning.
They don't even exist, Roland. They don't even exist.
That's my whole point. So if they don't exist,
hold on. Let me explain. So, Roland, you know who can do it? I can do it. But all I got to do is win. Hold on. All I got to do is win the Supreme Court case on being a natural born citizen, being a nonsense part of the Constitution that was amended out. The minute I win that case, I light this country on fire. Because, look, Donald Trump, yes, half his base loves the racism and sexism. Of course. That's the only thing that Hillary Clinton said that was actually true, the line about the deplorables. But the other half of Trump voters wanted to drain the swamp, and they got hoodwinked. They got conned by a legendary con man, right? He loves corruption. He doesn't hate corruption. But they thought he hates corruption. He gave a middle finger to the establishment. And that populist base that exists out there that is totally unaddressed by either party loved it. And you got to get a progressive that addresses that populist base and says, hey, let's actually fight corruption. Let's actually do things that are popular, like higher wages and lower drug prices. And that person, number one, the minute I win the court case, that person is me. I'll do it. I'll do in this race or the next race.
Cenk, but you sound like a guy who says, I can be an NBA all-star player, but you can't even start in the G League. How do you go from getting 6% in a congressional race to actually saying, oh, I can win the presidency? How?
Yeah. Roland, Young Turks has 5 billion views a year. I've been told every step of the way that I'm not the guy. I'm an outsider. I'm an immigrant. I'm a Muslim. I'm this. I'm that. It's not you, Cenk. It's not you. How dare you try to come up with a media network? Well, now we have 27 million subscribers, 5 billion views a year. What happened? If I told people when I started Young Turks, Dan Rather's not going to hire me, I'm going to hire Dan Rather, they would have thought I was nuts, but I did it.
Cenk, I get the media piece. I started my own. Now I have the own network. We built it from 157,000 YouTube subs to 1.16, and we're still growing. I get all of that. I'm talking politics. And what I'm saying is, it's a stretch. It's a long stretch. Some would say it's one where you need to be committed to actually say, if I got 6% in the congressional race, not I got 38% or 45% and I came in second. I got 6%, came in fourth. I can win the presidency. But again, I'm going beyond you.
But Roland,
hold on 1 second. I'm going beyond you. What I'm talking about is a broader movement. And I understand those Justice Democrats. But I also look at how right now there are people who are critical of those same Justice Democrats who are saying AOC, oh, she sold out. She got there and she changed, on and on. And what I'm saying is the model that you described, if you can't replicate that in more than one race, it doesn't work. I'm just simply saying,
Roland.
Show me the pathway. Cenk, I'm taking you a president out. What I'm saying is, show me the pathway.
Okay, but Roland, let me give you another example. So I gave the example of Donald Trump starting at 1% and then winning the presidency. That wasn't good enough. I gave you the example of 11 Justice Democrats, all told impossible. They all win, not good enough. Fetterman he's the only one that tries.
No, I didn't say not good enough.
He's spectacularly not good enough. Hold on, let me give you one more example. Let me give you one more example. Okay. A young kid named Barack Obama runs against Congressman Bobby Rush.
Yeah.
And he gets humiliated. He gets defeated thoroughly. And if at that point you were interviewing him, Roland, and you had this mindset, admit that you would tell Barack Obama, how dare you? How dare you? You have no way of being able to do this. You have no pathway. You have no data to back you up. All you've done is lose an election. But he did it, didn't he, Roland?
No. Hold up. How did he do it?
Look, well, first of all, he tried. Number one thing is get caught trying. CenkForAmerica.com. Okay.
No. So, Cenk, that's not what happened. He didn't just try. After he lost to Congressman Bobby Rush, then when he made the decision to run for United States Senate, he made a calculated decision, and that is he took a meeting with Illinois Senate President Emil Jones. And in Illinois, there were three major Democratic figures in Illinois politics. There was Daley, the mayor of Chicago. There was Rod Blagojevich, the governor of Illinois. And there was Mike Madigan, who was Speaker of the House. Emil Jones was totally ignored. He was deemed to be irrelevant. So what did Obama do? Obama played on his ego. He went to Emil Jones and he said, how would you like to make a United States senator? That's what he did. State Senator Barack Obama was not a major player in the Illinois Senate. He wasn't. He went to Emil Jones, and Emil Jones said, interesting idea. It was Emil Jones, the Senate president, who was the one who said, all right, I'm stripping all of your names off of these bills, and his name is going on those bills. One of those bills that were racial profiling. The state senator who had been championing that for a long time, Ricky, his name last name escapes right now, went off. He was pissed. And Emil Jones literally was like, shut the fuck up. I'm going to make a United States senator. And that's what happened. So when Obama ran, Obama was able to talk about all of these bills that he passed. He didn't actually pass the bills. It was State Senator Emil Jones. And then when he ran, again, very smart campaign, but he also greatly benefited from complete implosion on the Republican side. I'm not saying that they would have won. What I'm saying is that was the pathway. And now what I'm also saying is the person who you're describing, this hardcore, what you're describing, progressive, that wasn't Obama.
Yeah, that's true.
Obama's persona and how he ran, it appealed to progressives, it appealed to moderates, it appealed to centrists, it appealed to Republicans as well.
Yeah.
And then wait a minute. Then he goes to United States Senate. Same thing. And so the type of person you're describing, that ain't Obama. And in fact, progressives were highly critical of Obama because they said he was too moderate.
Yeah. No, Roland, about that, you're totally right. I use Obama not as the progressive model. He went in a completely different track. He went in the establishment track. And he said, okay, I'm going to do whatever these politicians say and whatever the donors say. And that worked for him. But the reason I use him but that was a different time. And the reason I use him as an example is after he got, after he lost very, very badly to Bobby Rush at the congressional level, everybody thought he was nuts for running at the Senate level. How dare you run for the Senate when he got clowned running for Congress? And then he was only 2 years as a senator when he decided to take on the giant Hillary Clinton. And everybody thought he was crazy, that he had no data to back him up, no pathway, no other person that had done it, right? But that was a different time where going the establishment route would have worked. Now going the establishment route, basically for voters under 50 means you're a sellout and you're just doing whatever the donors say, and it's not going to work in the same way. But if you have an Obama-like figure who's a progressive at this moment and is willing to take those chances, and by the way, take the ridicule and take all the mud and all the things that people sling at them, at this point, they can make the exact same kind of run, but on the progressive track rather than the establishment track. But I want to agree with you on one more thing.
But I'm not just talking about presidential. What you're describing, so this is very simple. Is this book, Justice is Coming, how progressives are going to take over the country and Americans are going to love it? Is this really about Cenk running for president? Or is this a blueprint? Or is this, if you will, a call to arms for what is going to happen in terms of progressives that you're describing winning nationally, winning gubernatorial races, winning state races, winning U.S. Senate races, winning additional congressional races. And what I am saying is, I get the Justice Democrats. I get those. What I'm saying is, you got to graduate from mayoral wins, congressional wins, DA wins to higher office. And so who are the people? So let's say you mentioned Fetterman. Okay, who are the folks that we should be looking out for? Give me names of individuals who do you believe are going to be going to the next level to win these larger offices using the model that you laid out? Who are they?
Yeah. So first of all, let me address the thing that you said earlier, Roland. No, this book has nothing to do with this campaign. I started writing this book 4 years ago. It took way too long. It got released months ago. I never looked. This interview got booked a long time ago about the book, and we had delays, etc. Now I never even mentioned the URL where you could buy the book. I never even talk about it now that I've transitioned to the presidential campaign, and I never even thought for a second that I would run. The only reason I'm running, Roland, is because no one else had the courage to run, which goes partly to your point. Look, I asked every progressive to run. They wouldn't do it. Then I publicly asked for the Democratic governors to run against Joe Biden. Then I asked Jon Stewart to run against Joe Biden. I asked everybody and their mother to run against Joe Biden because he's definitely going to lose. He's 15 points lower than when he barely beat Trump last time in the Electoral College. But no one has that kind of courage, apparently. So then it's crazy for me to run. You think I don't know it's crazy? Of course I know. Okay? The reason I'm doing it is because I got to shake people out of their complacency. And I have to show them, hey, look, if I can rise from 2% to 4% to 8% to whatever I can rise to, imagine what you could do if you don't have the issues that I have of not being a natural born citizen, et cetera, right? Imagine what anybody could do if they actually ran this way. So in a sense, I'm trying to be a role model and try to gather up the courage of these folks. Hey, stop listening to Democratic consultants. All they ever do is tell you to take the cash because they're going to take 15% of it. All they ever do is tell you to behave and obey and comply. Just fight. Give me one fighter, and I'll show you exactly what Barack Obama did, and unfortunately what Donald Trump did.
Okay, and first of all, I've been highly critical of the consultants, absolutely, when it comes to them snatching the money, things along those lines. But I'm going to ask again, okay, the folks that you're describing, who are they? Who are the up and comers? If somebody's watching and listening to this, and somebody who covers politics, who are the people? Who are the names we should be looking out for, who are ready to go next level and fit the category or the description that you've laid out? Who are they? Where are they?
Look, I think that the 11 Justice Democrats had a real shot at it. But you mentioned something earlier that we didn't get to explore too much, and I want to mention it here. Those folks are creating an issue for themselves, which is that they're not understanding the problem of crime. And so when I say progressive, I mean all the issues that we all agree on as Democrats, all the ones that Joe Biden pretended he was going to do, right? But nobody's in favor of higher crime. And so right now, unfortunately, this culture wars are killing us. And they're meant to divide us. They're meant to distract us. If you had a progressive that was an economic populist, but was reasonable, moderate, whatever word you want to use, on crime and social issues, that person would win easily. But unfortunately, a lot of the Just Democrats have not gone in that direction. They've gone full cultural wars. And when we talked about criminal justice reform, we talked about letting poor people out of jail who just got busted on marijuana possession. That was an incredible injustice. And you know this better than anybody. White people, black people smoke marijuana at the same rate. Black people get arrested at 4 times the rate. That's the injustice we were trying to fix. But now that, you got folks that they're letting out of prison that committed serious crimes like domestic assault and et cetera. And we can't do that. And it's leading to losses. So if any one of those guys regain their senses on those issues, then they would be in prime position. And any Jamal Bowman could do it.
Well, first of all, hold on. All right. But you bring that up, though. But again, when you talk about polling data, though, we see where a lot of these younger voters are that actually agree with them. That's one. Two, you mentioned before you talked about media and how it works. A significant amount of that has been grossly overblown. That was a re-election effort of the DA in San Francisco, and everything was like, oh my God, how crime was exploding under the watch, but it wasn't. Right now, you got an effort to recall a black progressive DA in Oakland as saying, oh, her policies are creating this, when actually they haven't. And so a lot of this is, again, you had Spanberger who was complaining about this in Virginia. Defund the police is killing us. No, actually, that wasn't it, because there were other Democrats who won. You also just had some Democrats who lost because they were shitty campaigners. That also happened. So I get your point about the crime deal, but I still want to know who are 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 people we should be looking out for, who, again, who fit your description, who you believe can win statewide, and then who can then win national. Who right now, outside of Fetterman, fits that model? Who?
So, but Roland, you keep going back to the same thing, brother. I mean, No,
I'm not. Here's why I'm saying that. As an African American, and I've been doing this since I was 14 years old. When I was sitting here looking at individuals covering politics and looking at individuals who are up and coming, who are state rep, who are state senators, people who might be a commissioner, who are potential mayoral candidates, who are potential folks who can run statewide, because the reality is they've got to build something to actually get there. Okay, even if you take an Obama was, frankly, that was lightning in a bottle. I'm telling you right now, that was lightning in a bottle. Okay, to literally go from a state senator to president in the span of 5 years. I mean, that was lightning in a bottle. And so that rarely happens. But that's just
but that's not true, Roland. It happens all the time.
That's just president. I'm talking about if you're talking about the movement that you're describing, there has to be more than one person. And what I'm saying is, are we seeing this? Are we seeing this movement towards what you're describing? And if it is happening, then you could offer me more names who's actually doing it.
No, you're thinking about it the wrong way, Roland. Let me address it in two ways. Number one, the problem with going from the bottom up, and everybody thinks you got to go bottom up, But the problem is that process corrupts you. So in order to win those elections one by one, what do you have to do? You have to go and beg the donors. You have to go beg corporations. You have to go beg rich people. Please, please, please let me be mayor, rich person. Please, please let me be a congressman. Please let me be senator, rich person. Please, please, please. By the time you're done with that, you're so dripping in corruption that you're never going to be the lightning in a bottle. No, what you actually need is the Obama model, and I hate to say it, but the Trump model. And they were both lightning in a bottle, and they both came up from top. They didn't, you mentioned, yeah, Obama in the bottom. I hear you on that.
But again,
Trump came at it from completely the top, and Obama jumped everybody in the proceedings. They were both lightning in a bottle. So I'm giving you precedent of people that came out of nowhere over and over again, and you just won't hear it.
You can't use Trump for Democrats and progressives because it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No one's ever tried it, Roland.
No.
It doesn't work.
Cenk,
everyone who's tried it has won.
Cenk, you actually think that Democrats and progressives are going to respond to a Trump-like Democrat the same way Republicans did?
But not to the racism and the sexism and the crap like that. Of course not. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the populist end where he says, screw the politicians, screw the establishment, screw the system, screw the donors. Now, he doesn't mean it. He doesn't mean it. That's why he's such a poison in this country. If you had a progressive who believed that and said that, yes, they would win in a landslide.
And then the one that came closest to it of doing that, you said, well, he didn't go hard enough, and that was Bernie.
Yeah, if Bernie was a fighter, he'd have won easily. In 2020, he'd have won easily. In 2016, he would have been able to pull it out. Do you know that about a quarter of Trump supporters would have voted for Bernie? Why? Because they're looking for a populist, and the Democrats won't give them one. Give them a populist, and they're going to vote for you. But instead, we keep putting up corpses like Joe Biden. Oh, here's a guy who's drenched in corruption. Used to be known as a senator from MBNA, a credit card company. Go work for this fossil who's obviously corrupt.
And Cenk, here's why I absolutely disagree with you. And it is because the problem is, it is what you're describing, that Trump candidate, is easier to run on the right because the buttons they can push. Democrat progressive voters are simply more broad and have more varied interest. They just do. They just do. I mean,
why do the Democrats
African American?
Why did the Democrats stay home? Why did the younger voters stay home? Because we never give them a reason to show up. All of our guys, all of our lives, and Roland, you know this for a fact. Every Democrat promises the moon in the sky, and then they get in and go, oh, there's nothing I could do. I didn't pass any of the damn bills because the filibuster, parliamentarian, my mom, my dog ate my homework, my dog ate my policy. They suck. They never deliver. That's why nobody shows up to vote for them. Give them somebody to vote for.
Here's where you were wrong earlier when you say, well, I voted for you. And that's wrong. I have long said that the election is the end of one process and the beginning of another. One of the mistakes that Democrats make and one of the mistakes that progressives make is that they do not have a post-election strategy. When you have individuals who do get in there, and when they go through the whole compromise game, what you fail to have is the mechanisms, the machines, the groups that then are applying that level of pressure and challenging them when they're in there. I've said this about Black people, and I've long said that, just like with A. Philip Randolph, when he talked to FDR said, make me do it. You have to make somebody do it. When MLK said, we're going to put that, be true to what you put on paper. The problem is after the election, folks are not then saying, all right, election's over. Now I'm about to ride your ass to actually get it done. Now, that's one thing that has to happen. But the other thing that also has to happen, and it's just a fact, and that is Democratic voters are so varied in their interest that it's much easier on the Republican side to frankly put stuff on a bumper sticker when Democrats are totally different. And I just don't believe that what you're describing is going to work on a broader scale because you're having to appeal to so many different interests in order to get to that number.
So let's start. You brought up a perfect example, Roland, MLK. So now Martin Luther King didn't run for office, right? But he was involved in politics, and he put tremendous pressure on Lyndon Johnson. And when the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act were not good enough, he would not relent. No matter how much Lyndon Johnson and every Democrat in the world told him, "You got to relent, Martin. You got to relent. You're too tough on him." He wouldn't. He pushed him as hard as he could. And then at the right time, he took the deal. You've got to have both sides. You've got to have someone.
But there were times, though, when he also had to buckle to the pressure of the reality. So, for instance, when they went to Atlantic City in 1964, when Fan Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, when they were putting pressure on them to integrate that party, LBJ was focused on re-election. He called Ruther, who then said, you tell King, either you accept this deal or we're pulling your money. That's exactly what happened. When King went and told Fan Lou Hamer and Bob Moses and others, they were pissed at him and Bayard Rustin, but they had to say, hey, take this deal now, but we're going to have an integrated delegation in 1968. So there were moments when King was also practical.
That's exactly what I said, though, Roland.
Right. No, but what I'm saying, so that actually happened. But what I'm also saying, though, is that even he had to accept some constraints, if you will, of actual politics. And what I'm saying is, I think the problem for the Democratic Party today is, and actually, it's not a problem. That's what's so crazy about this. The beauty to me of the Democratic Party that it is much broader, it's much bigger, it's far more inclusive than the Republican Party. But the Republican Party is able to have a Trump-like candidate because, frankly, you can press 2 or 3 buttons and they will fall in line. And here's something else the Republicans will do that Democrats will not do. They will fall in line. You got Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, who's been shitting on Trump left and right. Guess what he said the other day? He said, I'm a Republican. Bill Barr was shitting on Trump in a whole interview about how awful and dumb he was. But when asked if he gets a nomination, will you vote for him? He says, I'll vote for him. Republicans understand power. Democrats will actually check out, mad, upset their person didn't win. Republicans be like, damn that, we want power.
So, Roland, as I told you, Martin Luther King and Rustin, who's a genius, they worked together to put tremendous pressure on Lyndon Johnson. And then they took the deal at the right time. They were both. They created a lot of good trouble. And that's the part the Democrats are missing now. And then they were practical at the right time. That's the exact combo that we need. Okay. But the problem now is the Democrats don't create any trouble. And they don't push anyone. And the minute Biden gets elected, people say, oh, well, you should just push Biden. And I push Biden, and they go, how dare you?
No.
You're pushing crap I've gotten in my life. You're pushing Biden, for pushing Obama. You know how much crap I've gotten? No, the Democratic Party is now totally authoritarian. They're more authoritarian than the Republicans. They all are forced to obey and comply. It's disgusting. They never challenge their leaders. Are you talking about they all rally on the Trump side? No, they fought Trump tooth and nail. Whereas no one's fighting Biden, even though you all know he's going to lose. No one's daring to fight Biden.
What I'm saying is, again, this is where I go back to, frankly, the thesis of your book. When I talk about movements, when I talk about groups, in order to do what you're talking about, it's not actually going to happen with individuals. It happens when movements. And so what I'm saying is this here. When I'm saying, like, for instance, what you're describing, you know what? I thought our revolution would actually do that. And so what I'm saying is this here. I still fundamentally believe that in order for what you're describing to happen, you're going to have to see folk not just only run for president, you got to see it on a statewide level. And I'm not seeing enough of it. I hope it happens, but I haven't seen it. Outside
So,
of
Roland,
outside John Fetterman, you've only given me one name.
So,
Out of
Roland,
all 50 states.
if you saw Rustin and MLK in '58, you'd have told them there's no movement. You guys have been losing for 100 years straight in the civil rights movement. 100 years they were losing. 100 years.
No.
And you would have said, "How dare you?"
No. Actually, because again, here's what I understand. And earlier you talked about how that's even the opposite of politics. What happened with the movement is that if you try to go national, that's not what made it successful. What made it successful is that they went local and built it to national, and they achieved wins, which is why I remember what you just described. I actually asked you that. I said, if you have, again, to fit your definition in terms of progressives who can win, I've said, do you have folks who are mayors, who are DAs, in local offices? Are they running statewide? You mentioned Justice Democrats. So the Black Freedom Movement was able to be successful because Montgomery, success. They moved to Albany, wasn't a success because of the sheriff there. Then all of a sudden, they understood how to build successes, how to build local, how to build leaders. And what I'm saying is, looking at your model, I need to see, is that being built? It can't just be built from the top.
But Roland, how much more can I do than building Justice Democrats? I founded that. So I got
no. I got that. And what I'm saying is,
but hold on.
Democrats winning congressional seats, is that? I'm asking you again. Is that translating into higher office?
So Roland, you're looking at the first third of a movie and going, "Oh no, you can't win because I've only seen the first third."
I said what I said.
So now, when I started 21 years ago, there was no progressives in media other than black radio. Okay, and then we built up an empire that was impossible. Then I started, so all of a sudden, it turns out progressives can win in media. And then I started Justice Democrats, and all of a sudden, everybody thought it was impossible, and we got 11 in. So that's grassroots, that's building from the top. From the bottom up. So we've done every step of the process. Now I'm doing the presidential. Hold on. Now I'm doing the presidential race. So I've done media. I've done grassroots. I've done Congress. Now we're doing presidential. What else do you want me to do? Do you want me to write the ending of the movie and then give it to you? And then you go, after I win, you go, oh, okay, I see it now.
No.
So you would stop every movie right in the middle and go, no, not impossible. Impossible. Don't do it. Don't do it. Get out of here. No, just take the corporate campaign money. Vote for losers like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton who lose to Donald Trump.
Not it.
Let them take all the stupid money and serve the corporate donors.
Cenk, is not it. What I'm saying is this here. The model that you have, the model that you have described, in order for it to happen nationally, you're going to have to win statewide races. And what I'm saying is, and I've asked you 3 or 4 times, and you haven't given me any name. Cenk, I have.
You asked the same question in 1958 to Rustin. You would have asked the same exact question. How dare you? How dare you organize the civil rights movement? You can't show me any wins. You can't show me any wins.
Cenk, and what I'm saying is, the next evolution has to be, how do you translate Justice Democrats' wins in congressional races to now statewide and national? That to me is the next challenge. I didn't say it can't happen. What I said is, in order for what you're describing, the thesis of your book, when you say how progressives are going to take over the country and America's going to love it, is that it is going to have to take folks going to the next level. And the only person who you mentioned, Fetterman, is the only example who's won statewide. And what I'm saying is, in order for this to happen, there are going to have to be more statewide wins to make this happen.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do, Roland. And why have we interviewed hundreds of progressives on TYT, my network? That, it gets no clicks at all. It's like we try so hard to get those folks press. It's not a thing because of the algorithm.
I do the same thing. And look, I know what people click on. I purposely don't do gossip. I don't do Zeus Network fights. I don't do stuff that you see on Hollywood Unlocked in the Shade Room and some of these other different people, because my whole deal is, if you want to go there for that kind of stuff, that's great. But someone has to build this here. But I'm absolutely into. I understand, and I've spent significant time studying the Black Freedom Movement, talking to the architects of it, or how it was done. And what I'm saying is, what you're describing, the next phase definitely is going to be statewide. And when I look at what happened to Beto in Texas, and I look at young voters, what I keep telling young voters is, hey, I get it. You want to be excited. You want to be fired up. But here's the whole deal. While you're waiting for that person, shit is being passed that ain't helping you. So you know what? You better get in the game regardless of whether you get excited or not. Because guess what? Somebody's going to win whether you vote or not. Final comment.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up the interviews with progressives, even though they don't do well for us, from a business perspective, is because I'm giving people an opportunity left and right. Every chance I get, I give others an opportunity so they can rise up in the same exact ways that you're talking about. Whether it's Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush and AOC who won, whether it's Nina Turner who lost, whether it's the next Bowman or Turner that comes by, we give them an opportunity at TYT and the Young Turks because we believe what you're saying, Roland, which is we need an army. We need a grassroots army. We need to win in Congress. We need to win at the state level. And at the state level, only one person has ever tried it. It's John Fetterman. So we're 1 for 1. So give me more of those candidates. Let's go run those candidates and give it to me at every level, including the presidential level. And that's why I'm here at cenkforamerica.com. My site's also BidenIsGonnaLose.com. That redirects to my site because he's going to lose, and we all know it. We're all on the Titanic. Either grab a lifeboat or turn the wheel, get somebody other than Joe Biden because he is definitely going to lose to Donald Trump. And I don't want to voluntarily run into an iceberg. I don't want to hand this country over to Trump, and that's what Biden's planning to do with his egomaniacal run. Oh, I need to be a 2-term president. My ego is more important than anything else. He's a narcissist. Get rid of him.
Hey, look,
get a better candidate.
Here's the whole deal. Okay, anybody didn't think Biden wasn't going to run for a second term when he ran the first term, they're nuts. The reality is this here. When he won, look, I wasn't delusional. I said, if you tripping about Biden being his age now, well, hell, he was old when he ran the first time. He was always going to run for a second term. The last president who chose not to run for a second term was LBJ. That was going to happen. So I'm not confused. I'm not shocked, confused that he's running for a second term at all. That was always going to happen.
I know. That's why I'm here to talk about it.
Hell, Reagan ran for a second term. It was going to happen. So it's not like anybody is shocked that he ran for a second term. Folks, the book is called Justice is Coming, How Progressives Are Going to Take Over the Country and America's Going to Love It, by Cenk Uygur. Cenk, we appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Roland. I appreciate the conversation.
All right. Enjoy.
Thank you, brother.